Welcome to 1850 Main Street, a place where friends get together and talk about their country and hope for a brighter future. Your hosts have built this spot over the past 40 years, meeting every day with people who are in the headlines and behind the real stories. Today, Rob Walgate and Alan C. Duncan from the Public Square are joined by David Zanotti, the CEO of the American Policy Roundtable.
When a storm comes, who are we supposed to trust? The people at the top or our friends and neighbors?
Well, we're having this conversation as of recording time. Near where our studios are located in Northeast Ohio, there are hundreds of thousands of family homes that are without power.
Hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands.
And have been for several days.
Several days. Mine happens to be one of them. We're on day 4 currently without power.
Really?
Yes. And they're saying it could be another week or so. So we don't know. It could come on today. It could come on in another week. We don't know. So I thought it would be a good time to talk about disaster preparedness. It's on my mind.
just a bit. Well, before we get into all the preparedness, let's talk about the after the fact, okay? Yeah. So big storm blew in, high winds. But what's really weird about this is we're not talking about a hurricane, right?
There was a Hurricane Debbie.
The radar was crazy coming off Lake Erie down into northern Ohio all over. It was just crazy, the storms that came through.
Very strange storm coming across the Great Lakes.
Yeah. There were 4 confirmed tornado touchdowns, I believe. And Ohio's not exactly
more touchdowns than the Browns got in the entirety of the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe,
that hurts.
Yeah, okay.
In where I was when it hit, I was in a meeting in a basement somewhere, and just the power went out. There wasn't a lot of storms, thunder, lightning where I was, but wind, and it knocked the power out there. So it was power out everywhere.
So the winds took out a lot. So first and foremost, it points up, let's talk about macro. It points up the problems that we've got with the grid.
Yeah.
The grid is a serious problem.
Is it true that most of that grid was built in the 60s and 70s?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And first off, and God bless the people who built it and maintain it. You got somebody in your family spent their whole life right up on up as a
power
lineman.
plant. Yeah.
But it is aging at this point, right? At least a lot of it.
The people that are involved in creating power, whether it's electricity or whether it's natural gas or our phone connection, whatever it might be, these people are not the problem. Now, there's politics that's involved with public utilities, to be sure. There are large Fortune 100 companies, energy companies, that have got their hands full with lots of issues. This is not a small enterprise, and they're not what they used to be. I can tell you they're not what they used to be. They're publicly traded. They are far, far more politically involved and attuned and spending massive amounts of money in state legislatures and on Capitol Hill. But they're still our neighbors, okay? And when the storm hits, we're stuck with trusting our neighbors, because you're not going to invent a whole bunch of people and reinvent the problem with the power grid and the power companies. You got what you got. But so understanding that there's some problems at the top that genuinely need people to think differently. We need reformed thinking at the top. But the grid is also a huge problem. There was a power outage, significant power outage, in that same part of the country not so many years ago because of a single set of trees that tripped a single set of wires that catapulted backwards and put people out of power for days, thousands and thousands of households and businesses without power for days, simply because the grid can't handle the shock. And now what's amazing about that is that's why you don't want windmills. That's why you don't want electric cars. That's why you don't want anything that's going to create more stress and strain on an already blown up system. But what you really don't want is a giant storm coming across Lake Erie, spawning 4 tornadoes that hit.
We haven't even talked about cyber attacks or terror attacks. If somebody truly wants to on purpose do damage to the grid, I will say the one nice thing about the grid is it's not exactly centralized. So you can attack pieces and parts. I mean, I can see lights that are on, driving home, and then my neighborhood doesn't. So there is a sense, and there's some safety in the decentralization. You can't just attack one thing,
right?
But you can still do a lot of damage. And so I just think that we talk about personal responsibility. What can you do? Dr. Allen talks to us a lot about personal responsibility as American citizens. Yeah. And so it's just got me thinking, I don't want to be so reliant. Obviously, you have to rely on your neighbors. You have to rely on certain things, but I don't want to be completely reliant on something I have no control over.
Well, what'd you say to me this morning when you walked in and I said, hey, do you have power? And you said, no, I don't. I said, where'd you stay last night? You said,
I said I'm going down with the ship. So, well, because I started to make a list of things I'm glad I have right now and things I wish I had had. And the interesting thing is, the things I'm glad I have, it's a bigger list. Which I'm happy for. But one of the things I'm glad I have is friends and family right now. We do have a lot of friends and family close by. I've had so many offers for people saying, please come stay at our house, sleep at my house, have my house. There's members of the American Mission Center here that have told me to take a whole house for a week. So we have plenty of family and friends, but yeah, I like to sleep in my own bed.
That wasn't me that said that, by the way.
No,
just
it wasn't right.
For those wondering.
All right, so let's break it down even tighter. What I want to start with is, how's the dog handling this?
You know what? He's a baby in the heat. He was bred to run in the Alps, and so he does not like the heat. So he's not a big fan of this, but he's hanging in there, drinking a lot of water, laying on the cold ground as long as he can.
Wow.
Yeah. He's a little heat baby.
Dog's not happy. We start with that.
Yeah, he's not happy.
So, which then means that as we move our way back up the family tree.
Well, only time he was ever happy to get a hose bath. I'll say that. That was the only time.
Wow.
Cool him off.
Wow. So you do have water, but you don't have electricity.
Yes.
Okay. So now the good thing is that you come from a family that also has significant Italian contribution, which is one reason why everyone, Dr. Glover used to always say, you must have Italian friends. He would always tell us this. You must have friends that are Italians. And his dad gave him a list of people that from different communities of development and upbringing, you need this number, you need these people in your lives because.
That's so funny.
And also you need Italians. One of the reasons that you need Italians is because they all have at least 3 refrigerators.
Yeah.
And they're all running at the same time. So if you need freezer space or refrigerator space, you got to have Italian family friends.
Yes, this is true. Yes, so my Italian mother has offered me a lot of freezer space. Yeah. This is true.
See, and that is something that people don't realize until it's like 20 minutes into something like this, you go, oh my gosh, I've got a refrigerator full of food.
We did lose a decent amount of stuff. Yeah,
that really hurts.
It hurts
because that's what do you do when you get your family budget? I mean, you got to pay your housing, you got to pay your insurances, you got to pay your medical, but you got to buy food. It's like non-negotiable. And for someone to come in and say, okay, that week's appropriation of food gone,
bye-bye. Yeah.
Whoa, man, that's hard. Then you got to literally watch it sitting there and you got to throw it away with your own hands. That's terrible.
Where I grew up, people had freezers full of deer in the garage and they had generators specifically for
deer as in DEER. These you're talking about
DEER.
Venison. Okay. They have other things in there. Squirrel,
plenty
rabbit,
of stuff. Yeah, of course.
Okay. Possum.
It all fries. Okay. But they had generators just for those free that Oreos deep fry. Okay. But
but yes, your point about the generator, you're trying so hard to make a generator point right here.
But they have generators because of the thousands of dollars of meat that they have in the freezers in the garage. They didn't have generators worried about having the lights on for the family. They had generators to save the food.
This is where I start to feel like Sebastian Maniscalco. And the problem is when you've got something like this, you suddenly go, oh my God, I need a generator. I'm such an idiot. You can't buy one now because there's none to be found.
Well, and that's one of the big takeaways I want from this show. That's the thing I think I need to do that now. It's one of those purchases you hate to make it because it's kind of like insurance. I'm probably not going to use this, but when you need it, you need it. So I would just put the plea out there for listeners. You should probably get a generator, at least for your fridge. You just probably should do it.
This message brought to you by nobody. We're just talking.
I don't care what brand
the
you buy.
Corporation for Pain and Suffering. So. And of course, you're going to have to wait 6 months for them to get back stocked on the.
Right.
If someone would like to
reasonable
send
prices.
Alan C. Duncan a generator, all right.
Yeah.
If they're on Amazon, let us know. Call.
You know what you could do? You could go in with some friends of yours that don't live in the same neighborhood. Everybody pitch in for a generator, and then your power's out. Well, here you get the generator for the week.
That sounds like chapter 1 of the book, How to Lose a Friend Quickly.
Yeah.
You can't live on the same
We
grid.
got to call Wilbur. This is a new business plan, though. We could do it in a nonprofit sector. We could just have, okay.
I know. I'm just throwing out ideas at this point. I am glad that I have a camping stove. It's funny. My wife wanted to go on a camping trip before school started back for the kids.
Well, she got her wish.
The camping trip found us.
Put the tent in the backyard. That's what I used to do. My wife used to say, my kids don't want to go to camp, so I bought a tent. And I put it up in the backyard.
There you go.
I said, there.
It's funny. There's
again, Maniscalco moment. There's the tent. Go camp.
Go camp. Yeah. Well, we're pretty close to putting the tent up.
You're under a tree.
But yeah, I got the camping stove, so I could cook up the last eggs. We could boil water for coffee, and so camping stove. It's good to have.
When you subscribe to 1850 Main Street, you're the first to find out what's happening next with new guests, publications, and events. And when you spread the word about 1850 Main Street, you're helping others find real answers to the real questions facing America right now. To learn more, visit 1850mainstreet.com. And please, tell a friend.
Next, are we using a battery-operated lights, or are we back to candles here? What are we doing?
A little of both. Yes, some friends let us borrow. They have a bunch of really big lanterns. Some friends let us borrow. But yeah, we've got some candles as well.
They charged their phone in their cars and then just brought them in for flashlights.
I charge my phone on my laptop, actually. So I charge the laptop here at work, and then I bring the laptop home and charge the phone on that.
All right, oh man,
you should also have non-perishable food items. Stuff that's not going to go bad. You should have some of that kind of stuff stocked.
Okay, but like over an extended number of days, Mophis don't help either. I mean, it's nice to have portable batteries, but you got to rehook it.
And this happened in Northeast Ohio and other parts of the country, not just Northeast Ohio. About 22 years ago, remember where the rolling blackouts, and it would happen for days, and people at that point were worried about cash. Do you have enough cash sitting around just to...
That's a good idea, too.
That happened a few weeks ago when we were traveling. I was in South Carolina, and there was that debacle with the company with the update that shut down airports and everything else. Well, we went to the gas station to get gas, and our cars wouldn't work. And that was one of the reasons. So you had to find a gas station where it wouldn't. I looked at my wife, and I'm like, well, we can't start for home unless we're guaranteed that we can find somewhere that takes, that the pumps work or the cards work or the cash works.
This is another preparedness thing.
Whoa,
sorry, go ahead. If you want to stay on that.
Let me process that for a second. I hadn't thought about that. When you have a rolling blackout that would say, let's say you had a situation of 200-300 miles and you were in the process of transportation. And if the computer, so this could be a cyber hack situation. Oh, great. Now we've just launched another nightmare. All right. Could you imagine what would happen? Oh, boy. All right. Change the subject.
Don't give them any ideas.
No,
well, I was just saying, we should probably have some gas cans stored. If we need some gas cans, have some gas cans with some gas in them. Just another thing just to have on hand. One other thing is we should probably grow something in our yard. I'm not super green thumb, but I do grow tomatoes, mint, and basil, back to Italians. And that was the side dish last night, was we got to pick our tomatoes and mix them with some basil and olive oil, and there we go. So I would just encourage people, start small, grow something.
Did you bring any in today?
No, sorry. But I can. When the next batch comes in.
When the electricity's back up.
Yeah.
So there are hospital systems that are without electricity right now, and that's very frightening because generators. I believe that would all, but that's still scary.
Oh, it's very scary.
Joanna works at a cardiologist office a couple days a week, and it was shut down. So I was like, that seems like kind of an important thing to get your heart checked. You don't want those appointments passing by.
So did you end up with a battery-operated transistor radio?
Well, not exactly transistor, I don't think. But
you
yes,
wound it up, you cranked it?
No. Wait, I guess that they're all transistor? Just
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Since about 1940, yeah.
I thought they changed them since. But here, all right. I thought it was.
Well, that's why they still work.
Wow. Keep this, Jonah. Yes, I have a battery operated radio. I played it all last night. We've been getting our news off of that because our phones, it's a dead zone for our phones. I don't know if a tower went down. I can't call or text or get online from my phone in my house either. So our information's coming from radio. Our white noise is coming from radio to try to sleep. Any entertainment, any news is coming from the radio. So again,
whoa, that's the hidden gem in this whole conversation, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there are manufacturers who want to obliterate AM radios in automobiles. And basically, there are people who are saying, what do we even bother with this for anymore? Oh, I know, because someday you might have 4 storms blow through where you live, and all of a sudden, that's all you got left?
It's been really helpful and nice to have a radio and make sure you have batteries too.
So the moral of the story on some of this stuff is we can all do with the practicals, but it's the funny thing about life. You don't get an invitation that says, oh, by the way, on such and such a date, 4 tornadoes are touching down in your neighborhood or in your region, and you're going to be without power for a long time. Get ready. You don't get an invitation. You didn't wake up that morning saying, I know what's going to happen by tonight. No. Life happens, and we live in a fallen world. And in that fallen world, there are things like nature. There are things like gravity. There are rules in this world that exist we don't get a vote on, nor do we get an invitation to participate or to be exempt from. And stuff happens. What's interesting about this is how different our metaphysical view of reality becomes when suddenly stuff happens.
We've been talking a lot about Psalm 23 on these broadcasts. And you had asked the question on a previous broadcast for the public square, what if one verse could change a nation? You really have to think about the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want when something like this happens. The funny thing was we were into a church party after we lost our power. And I think Rob knows.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, we went to a church party and we were telling everybody, oh, sorry we're late. We got all craziness. We had a couple visiting. They are missionaries in Africa. And so they're visiting. So try telling missionaries to Africa who are visiting about your power outage. You feel really stupid doing it. You can still go to Costco, so it puts things in perspective. But this is a great reminder that the Lord really is our shepherd, and we have to depend on him for our needs. And I'll say this, the person who has the best attitude in my house right now is my 9-year-old. This is a big adventure for him. This is, we're lighting candles. Oh, we're having a sleepover. So again, the mindset of a child, whereas adults were freaking out that our lives are turned upside down. That Caleb was the only person that wanted to sleep in the house with me last night. Joanna went to her sister's house. Ethan went to my parents. They wanted AC. Caleb wanted to stay in the house with me.
The guy who's going down with the ship.
Yeah.
Where'd the dogs sleep?
On the floor.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.